Vamos a continuar con el tema de la politización de las agencias federales, que es un tema muy importante y que en cualquier momento puede salir alguien desde dentro de estas agencias revelando su corrupción, como ocurrió con Mark Zuckerberg, el CEO de Facebook, respecto a la censura, donde se reveló que todo parte de la Casa Blanca. En el video anterior estuvimos viendo la politización y la corrupción del Departamento de Homeland Security en la figura de su secretario, Alejandro Mayorkas, durante su comparecencia para declarar ante el Senado. En esta ocasión tendremos al Departamento de Justicia. Vamos a ver cómo esta agencia, que se supone debe ser totalmente imparcial, es usada por la administración en el poder para reprimir a los ciudadanos y perseguir a las personas por cuestiones políticas y hasta por motivos religiosos. Parece totalmente increíble y difícil de admitir para algunos que estas cosas estén ocurriendo aquí en los Estados Unidos. Veamos estos fragmentos de video de la comparecencia del Attorney General o fiscal general para testificar ante el Senado.
Does your department have a problem with anti-Catholic bias?
Our department protects all religions and all ideologies. It does not have any bias against any religion of any kind.
Well, you could have surprised me, because given the resources that you are expending and the apparently intelligence assets that you are deploying against Catholics, it appears, and other people of faith, while simultaneously turning a blind eye while people are executed gang style in the streets of our cities, including in my home state, your answer frankly surprises me. Let's talk about the Mark Houck case, for example. You've been asked about this already today, and frankly, your answers really astound me. This is a case where a Catholic pro-life demonstrator, father, was accused of disorderly conduct in front of an abortion center. The local prosecutor, the Philadelphia district attorney, who is a Democrat, a liberal, very progressive, declined to prosecute. There was a private suit that got dismissed. And then after all of that, your Justice Department sent between 20 and 30 armed agents in the early morning hours to the Houck's private residence to arrest this guy after he had offered to turn himself in voluntarily. Here's the photo. Once again, you can see the long guns, you can see the ballistic shields, you can see that they're wearing bulletproof vests. Why did the Justice Department do this? Why did you send 20 to 30 SWAT-style agents and a SWAT-style team to this guy's house when everybody else had declined to prosecute and he'd offered to turn himself in?
Determinations of how to make arrests under arrest warrants are made based by the tactical operators in the district. They are not.
But you surely looked into it by this point, right? You know the answer, surely.
All I know is what the FBI has said, which is that they made decisions on the ground as to what was safest and easiest. So they do not agree with your description of what happened on the scene.
You don't agree with my description. I'm pointing out what the photo is. There are agents here who have long guns and ballistic shields. Let's take a look at the hardened criminals that your Justice Department sent these armed agents to go terrorize on that morning. Here they are. Here they are at Mass. Here's the 7 children with Mr. Houck and his wife. In this early morning, they were all at home. Mrs. Houck has said repeatedly the children were screaming. They feared for their lives. You got these agents demanding that he come out. They've got the guns, she said, pointing at the house and at them. He has offered to turn himself in. And this is who you go to terrorize. What's really interesting to me is this seems to directly contradict your own memorandum about the use of force at the Justice Department. You say officers may use only the force that is objectively reasonable to effectively control an incident. Are you telling me that in your opinion as Attorney General, it was objectively necessary to use 20 or 30 SWAT-style agents with long guns and ballistic shields for these people?
What I'm saying is that decisions about how to go about this were made on the ground by FBI agents.
So you're saying you don't know?
I'm saying what I just said,
which is that you're abdicating responsibility?
I'm not abdicating
Then
responsibility.
give me the answer. Do you think, in your opinion, you are the Attorney General of the United States? You are in charge of the Justice Department, and yes, sir, you are responsible. So give me an answer.
The FBI does not agree with your description.
I'm not asking about the FBI. You are the Attorney General. Give me your answer. Do you think that it was objectively reasonable and they followed your guidelines in sending 20 to 30 armed agents to terrorize these people? Yes or no?
The facts I have, which are those presented by the FBI, are not consistent with your description.
So you think it was reasonable?
I'm saying the facts are not as you describe.
What, that the children weren't there? That there weren't long guns there? That there weren't agents? What do you dispute? What's the factual premise you dispute?
FBI
Be specific.
Said they don't agree with your description of...
Be specific. They don't agree with what?
Of how many agents, of the agents who were there, and of what their roles were. They don't agree.
Do you know the jury in this case acquitted Mr. Houck? So I'm sure you're aware. Do you know how long it took him?
I am aware, and we respect the decision of the jury.
Do you know how long it took him?
I don't know.
1 hour. 1 hour. Philadelphia District Attorney declines to prosecute. The private suit's dismissed. You use an unbelievable show of force with guns that I just note liberals usually decry. We're supposed to hate long guns and assault-style weapons. You're happy to deploy them against Catholics and innocent children. Happy to. And then you haul him into court and a jury acquits him in 1 hour. I just suggest to you that that is a disgraceful performance by your Justice Department and a disgraceful use of resources. I notice a pattern, though. The FBI field office in Richmond, on the 23rd of January of this year, issued a memorandum in which they advocated for, and I quote, the exploration of new avenues for tripwire and source development against traditionalist Catholics, it's their language, including those who favor the Latin Mass. Attorney General, are you cultivating sources and spies in Latin Mass parishes and other Catholic parishes around the country?
No, the Justice Department does not do that. It does not do investigations based on religion. I saw the document you have.
What did you do about it?
It's appalling. It's appalling. I'm in complete agreement with you. I understand that the FBI has withdrawn it, and it's now looking into how this could ever have happened.
How did it happen?
That's what they're looking into. But I'm totally in agreement with you. That document is appalling.
I'll tell you how it happened. This memorandum, which is supposed to be intelligent, cites extensively the Southern Poverty Law Center, which goes on to identify all of these different Catholics as being part of hate groups. Is this how the FBI, under your direction and leadership, is this how they do their intelligence work? They look at left-wing advocacy groups to target Catholics? Is this what's going on? I mean, clearly it is. How is this happening?
The FBI is not targeting Catholics, and as I've said, this is an inappropriate memorandum, and it doesn't reflect the methods that the FBI is supposed to be using. It should not be relying on any single organization without doing its own work.
Let me just ask you, as my time expires here, a very direct question. How many informants do you have in Catholic churches across America?
I don't know, and I don't believe we have any informants aimed at Catholic churches. We have a rule against investigations based on First Amendment activity, and Catholic churches are obviously First Amendment activity. But I don't know a specific answer to your question.
You don't know the specifics of anything, it seems, but apparently on your watch, this Justice Department is targeting Catholics, targeting people of faith, specifically for their faith views. And Mr. Attorney General, I'll just say to you, it's a disgrace.
Como hemos podido ver, el fiscal general Merrick Garland, que en innumerables ocasiones han mentido bajo juramento ante el Congreso, en este caso se niega a asumir la responsabilidad de haber ordenado usar la fuerza represiva en exceso contra ciudadanos católicos por el hecho de haber participado en una protesta contra el aborto. El senador Hurley presenta toda la evidencia de allanamiento de la residencia, con fotos de los agentes armados con armas largas y escudos balísticos para atemorizar a una familia católica. Esto se me parece mucho a los hechos ocurridos en Cuba en los primeros años de la dictadura. Valoren ustedes, mis amigos, si esto es admisible y hacia dónde vamos por este camino. ¿Qué podríamos esperar de una administración Kamala Tem? Porque esta fórmula se proyecta mucho más agresiva que la fórmula Biden. Kamala. Ustedes saben que no es lo mismo un compuesto químico con un componente desactivado que un compuesto químico con los dos componentes activos. Bueno, veamos este otro fragmento de video en que el representante por Arizona, Andy Biggs, interroga al Attorney General Merrick Garland.
The reality is, Mr. Hur, Special Counsel Hur, found that then former Vice President, President Biden, had retained and disclosed classified information. Isn't that true?
Mr. Hur has presented a long report.
Isn't that true? I mean, come on. I'm practically quoting right from it. You wouldn't disagree with that
I won't disagree
assessment.
I'm not going to comment on his report. He sets forth. I appointed him to investigate the allegations about classified documents.
So the reason that we end up talking over you is because a simple question like that goes unanswered. You're non-responsive. You're non-responsive to the question. Because that is what Mr. Hur found. And then he also found, and you're not going to like this because I'm going to quote from it. From this, he basically says here that he found Mr. Biden to be sympathetic and here he is, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And so he made a prosecutorial decision that he wasn't going to prosecute. Are you going to dispute that? You're not disputing that, are you?
Mr. Hur's report.
Okay, you're going to say it stands on its own. Okay, so it stands on its own. No, because you're not intent on answering. You want to be non-responsive. You want to filibuster.
I'd like to answer your question.
Do you dispute that? So let's just face it. Mr. Biden has not been prosecuted, correct?
That's correct.
And the rationale given by Mr. Hur is because he was a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, and he thought the jury would have sympathy towards Mr. Biden.
That was one of a long list of reasons that Mr. Hur gave for his decision.
Give me one more reason.
He found that, look, I don't want to get into a discussion about this, but I will say one of them was that the president was completely cooperative in this matter.
That's the reason, huh? Okay, all right.
You asked me one of the reasons. That was one of the reasons.
The issue that we have here, you don't want to give us the audio tape. You don't want us to have the recording. But ultimately, the issue is whether the transcript actually supports the special counsel's determination. Now, your office has basically pled two things in court. Claiming, number one, executive privilege, and number two, this kind of interesting novel approach saying deep fakes, AI. Right. Did they consult, did your staffer who filed that, did they consult with you about the deep fake AI rationale for not providing the audio to us?
You're mischaracterizing the filing. That was one of a substantial number of arguments made in a Freedom of Information.
Did they consult with you specifically about that idea, that notion where they were going to say something like, quote, this is from the pleading, the passage of time and advancements in audio, artificial intelligence, and deepfake technologies only amplify concerns about malicious manipulation of audio files, close quote. Did they consult with you about that provision?
I'm not going to talk about internal department deliberations. That was one of a large number of explanations in the document you're talking about.
And I'm talking specifically about that particularized rationale. And you don't want to discuss it, which is why you're non-responsive. And that's why we need the audio. Now, let me explain why. Because your attorney also said that you did alter the transcript. And they said it was filler words, repeat words, and, I. But you know what? We don't know whether they're the blank, he said there were blank times where there was silence. We don't know whether those were 1 minute long, 2 minutes long. We don't know if he sputtered for and, because those were edited out. We do not know whether this supports and substantiates Mr. Hur's findings. By the way, you want to rely on Mr. Hur, you need to go back and listen to his testimony. Mr. Hur was pretty conclusive there that he had a poor memory. He was not able to answer all the questions. Substantively, the transcript may be accurate, But you know what? The audio would tell us so much more, which is why the Supreme Court, in the case that you poo-pooed when Mr. Fitzgerald was asking about, they said, look, you know, if there's editing that's gone on here, that's the rationale. And there was editing. Your own office admitted it. But you won't admit it today. You've been non-responsive. And that's why we need the audio. And that's why you're here. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Como pudieron ver una vez más, Garland se niega a responder a las preguntas ante el Congreso. En este caso se cuestiona al fiscal general por negarse a entregar al Congreso los audios de la entrevista a Biden por el fiscal especial Robert Hur en el caso de los documentos clasificados en poder de Biden. Garland se niega a entregar los audios alegando que no era necesario, ya que las transcripciones estaban bien claras y decían exactamente lo mismo que los audios, por lo cual él no consideraba necesario entregar los audios. El representante Biggs le dice que el Congreso sí necesitaba los audios, porque había notado alteraciones en las transcripciones, y esto levantaba la sospecha de que se estaba ocultando información. El caso fue a parar en que Merrick Garland se negó rotundamente a entregar dichos audios, y el Congreso lo declaró en desacato y listo para un impeachment que no se produjo por la votación del Congreso a favor de Garland. Pero aunque el Attorney General Merrick Garland no haya sido procesado, esto no impidió que quedara demostrada la parcialidad del Departamento de Justicia al proteger a Biden y su complicidad con la corrupción de esta administración. Pudiera poner muchísimos ejemplos más que demuestran la corrupción de estas instituciones, pero creo que no es necesario. Mucha gente se pregunta, ¿cómo es posible que con tantas denuncias de corrupción que llegan al Congreso y se discuten allí, no se hacen las investigaciones pertinentes? Y si se llevan a cabo las investigaciones, ¿por qué nunca pasa nada? ¿Por qué cuando se trata de la corrupción de los políticos del lado demócrata, si son investigados, no pasan de las investigaciones a los tribunales? ¿Por qué la mayoría de los casos no llegan a las cortes? Por ejemplo, todo el escándalo de la corrupción de la familia Biden, que lleva muchísimo tiempo debatiéndose en el Congreso, donde se han presentado pruebas de todo tipo, con audios, videos, biles de los bancos firmados por los demandados, acusaciones de denunciantes, los llamados whistleblowers. Y no pasa nada. En algunos casos, como los de Hunter Biden y Joe Biden, se nombraron fiscales especiales para que llevasen las investigaciones de los casos. Pero esto solo ha servido para que cuando el fiscal general tenga que rendir cuentas ante el Congreso, tenga una justificación de no responder a las preguntas, alegando que existe una investigación en curso. Y estas son investigaciones que nunca terminan, siempre están en curso. Cada vez que ante el Congreso se le pregunta algo al fiscal general o al director del FBI, dicen que no pueden responder sobre el tema porque existe una investigación en curso. Lo tapan todo de esa forma descarada a la vista de todos, riéndose y burlándose de la inteligencia de la gente. Es por eso que no pasa nada. Porque el Departamento de Justicia es el que autoriza hacer cualquier tipo de investigación. Y el Departamento de Justicia que tenemos, como hemos visto, es totalmente corrupto y parcial a esta administración en el poder. Y mientras sigan esta gente en el poder, nunca pasará nada bueno, porque la justicia está en manos de los delincuentes. Por eso digo y repito, y sigo repitiendo, para todos los que vean este video, que la única manera de librarnos de esos corruptos es a través del voto. No deje de ir a votar y votar en contra de la izquierda. Si quieres tener un país donde se pueda vivir con libertad y sin depender del Estado, no votes por esos demócratas de la izquierda radical. Bueno, ya lo dejamos por aquí, mis amigos. Que Dios le bendiga y hasta la próxima.